We are live.
The Live Center Appropriations, April 9th. We're on to FY26 budget, the web report, which we're taking suggestions for new names for. We're going to go through agency human services, which is a skip, which I think is the 300 section. So it starts at D300. People want to have that. We do have this in here so we can ask questions. So B300 is the secretary's office. Looks like basically 3%.
Wait, I got there. It's good.
You okay with closing that out?
Yep.
Okay. The global commitment has some house changes, a lot of house changes, but it's, I'm assuming
It's right.
all okay, but
Well, it's
Yeah.
got the increase.
For the record, all I will address this office. So throughout AHS, there's gonna be a lot of global commitment stuff.
right,
This section's where it all gets mixed and matched. So there's gonna be twice. You're gonna see it here, then you're gonna see it throughout the section.
this is the mixing bowl.
This is where the mixing will happen.
So,
We need to leave some of it open.
yes, well, can
Yeah,
I? So amongst the designated agencies and, that all got rate increases here, is there anybody that got left out?
Well, this is,
Who did they leave out in the rate increases?
So they broke the rate increase into two parts. The first part was a group of choices for care. So this is not the, we're talking providers for a second.
Yep.
The group of choices for care sections that got a rate increase based on this 2023 rate study.
Yep.
And that group, and I have the section numbers, sheet I have to open up, got like an actual number increase. It wasn't based on a percentage, it was based on, I think that's 6.5 million, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
Yep.
I'll look in a second. And then there's another section that are non-home health. It's like home health and non-home health agencies. And that's where you're gonna have the DAs, the SSA, your adult day, AAAs, those were under, those all got 2%. So it's kind of broken into the two.
So one got 2%, you got a handful here that got 4.
I don't know what the percentage breakup.
4.5, but I think I have 2 APs, yeah.
And, so my question, like in Dale, did, the adult days get, an increase?
I
Did,
believe they did.
the non-medical homes that are in between, did they get, I'm just trying to figure out who got the increase, if anybody got left out.
There's some folks who've got 2 increases. Very
Right.
small subset. They fall into both categories. But who's left out? I can't answer.
We should probably go through, we should probably leave this open.
Yep.
And then come back after we've been through some of the other sections, and then I'll help answer the question.
Yeah, but, okay,
and I think
I
but
just,
these all show up in the base changes.
yep.
So we can also go through them when we go
I
through.
gotta go through this.
And I totally appreciate what you're gonna do. I'm just trying to, from up
No,
here.
well, we probably won't be going through this in the same way that we will in here, but, there are some differences in who gets left.
Right, and I'm just
Yeah.
trying to,
Okay. Well, we'll leave it up. Well, the mixing bowl is up.
And I'm hesitant to say who isn't it, because if I say no one is getting it, then you're gonna hear from Joel or somebody.
Well, that's how we get to know. We tell a lie and people will tell us why it's wrong.
Can I phone a friend too? Rich had.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Good afternoon, for the record, Rich Donahue, CFO of Appropriations. To answer Senator Westman's question in particular, I believe Nolan also answered yes, adult days were included in that rate increase.
Yep.
Days as
Okay.
well.
Well, I'm just trying to, the adult days are included, you know, I know nursing homes have, their set rate, that they get, based upon, and then, there's the group of homes that are in between the nursing homes and,
Enhanced residential.
yeah, and the enhanced
They're-
residential.
They're included as
Okay,
well.
okay, because they quite frequently get left out.
Yeah, levels 1 through 3.
And this, that also includes the elimination of the recovery campus.
Yep. Which is,
Some you're working on.
yeah.
Right, working on.
Health and welfare is working on the recovery plan.
Yes, I asked for some language for that.
B 303, can we close that one out? Close that. Human Service Board. We can close that out. 305, Administrative Fund. 306, Health Access Administration.
This one in here. So this is where the rate increase is for FQHCs?
307. Right, this is what you were saying, Nolan, where we see some of this twice.
Correct. So for instance, you have QHCs, you'll see it's 10.7 in DIVA, but in the 301, you'll see it as the 4.4. That's the general fund share, and then it grosses up. So it'll show up in the section as the total gross.
So if you add the total of the house, the federal and the general funds in 301, it equals the,
Yeah, but they'll actually have, so if you look on the section 301, if you add the 4.4 and the 6.3, which are the first two in the web report, that'll come up to 10.7.
yes, go ahead, Rich.
Again, Rich Donahue, yes, and I just wanted to point out to the committee that the funding included in that line for FQHCs also includes rate increases for rural health clinics. We're federally required to provide rate increases to both FQHCs and RHCs. So both are embedded in the gross dollar.
How many rural health clinics are there? Do you?
I don't know the answer to that, but I can get that answer to you.
Yeah, so 8.9 is FQHCs and 1.8 are the or rural health clinics, and that equals to 10.7. So that's what's built into there. So it's FQHC and rural.
So we're gonna leave that open since we're leaving the other part. So that's okay. B309, Medicaid program state.
Wait, so we're still at 307?
I left it open.
Right, but I just wanted to call attention to one thing, and I don't know that it belongs here exactly.
There's 308.
It is, to increase, what I was talking about the other day, the federal income subsidy for, older Vermonters to move from 145 to 150 percent of federal poverty level.
The Quimby thing?
That's the Quimby thing, and I asked for how much that would cost. Well, there would be savings in administrative costs overall, but I'm looking at Rich Donahue over there. I was wondering, I sent a little note out to Stephanie Barrett.
I will follow up.
That would be helpful.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think it's 416 something, 1,000, yeah.
I will follow up.
Okay.
We can get you that answer offline if I may.
Okay. Is there a reason there's not a 308?
In 307, you have another issue in 307.
Okay.
You have the E&M codes for family planning. So that's a 90-10 match. So it's 85,000, so it'll show up in the 301 as 85,000, and here it'll show up as 850,000. That's for, it was a Planned Parenthood request specific to evaluation and management code specific to family planning.
Okay.
No, I think that was,
And,
whoever uses that.
and while we're there, what is the ACSS?
Oh, so that would fall under provider rates, so that falls under the provider rate. So then, it's all provided, the provider rates are in one line on the throw stuff in 301, but then they're broken out by every section, the DA, the SSA, the ACCS, so it's all the 2% falls throughout every 300 section pretty much. Because of some are down providers, some are mental health providers, some are DEWA providers.
Okay.
What are these acronyms? Oh, EM and ACSS.
So E&M is evaluation and management, ACCS, God, I just wrote this down the other day, I'm gonna look to Rich to help me. It's assisted care, community, what is ACCS?
I'm not sure, no, I'm sorry.
Give me 1 second. I literally just wrote this down yesterday.
What do you say, E&M was?
Evaluation.
Okay.
Evaluation and management. There it is.
Assistant
Thank you, Amy.
community care service. You think it would be ACC?
Yeah, I think it's typo.
Oh, this is a typo.
That's a typo in the web report.
It's ACCS.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, there's not 308, it's a mystery section. We don't like,
Oh, I can answer that.
are you kidding?
Yeah, so Emily Burns from Joint Fiscal Office, so it used to be that long-term care was in DEVA as B308, and then a decision at some point, I don't know when, it was moved, which is, long-term care was managed by the Department for Aging and Independent Living, it was moved into the Dale section of the budget, so I don't remember that they'll see 340 something.
You didn't want to renumber all the other ones.
Long-term care, no, so that's so that we can keep it, right, like B309 is
Always.
always whatever,
Okay.
and that's why it disappeared, that happens.
That
usually.
probably happened.
It happened between when I was a budget analyst and when I moved to
Yeah,
legislature.
it probably happened 3 or 4 years ago
Yeah.
because the homes that I just asked about that are between the nursing homes and that, they used to get caught and not get rate increases because the recommendation came from Dale, but, it was in DEVA where, it would happen and they always got left behind.
Okay, well, we're closing out 308 and 309. 310, non-Medicaid, non-waiver match. I assume we can close that out. Admin and support, 311, close that out. Public health. This is good, close that out. B313,
Okay, I think I have
this is
something.
one we
else.
probably keep open.
That one we need to keep open.
Yeah, so the first, well, let me,
Yeah, go ahead. No.
so the top one, the SUD provided, that's a 2% increase. And then the next one, the elimination of funding for recovery campuses, that was in GovRec, and the House decided not to fund it. That's the 1.5 for the recovery campuses. And they also decided not to fund the governor's recommendation around aftercare navigators.
Right. And then, there was a youth mentoring program, base recommendation of $200,000, it's not here as well.
Can I ask a question on
That's
that?
a,
The recovery campus, this 1,500 is the total of the two amounts that we dealt with before in B302. Right, it's the same.
and the recovery campus is the one that I've asked the Department of Health to come in with some language to justify the 1.5, at least gives us a better understanding of what's being taken out or left in.
Okay, well, we're leaving it up, yes, Senator West.
So I'm not sure exactly where we're gonna put it. but in 312 in public health,
Mhm.
we've had a request, about, 500,000 from the tobacco settlement funds to go to the, parent-child centers. We've also had a line in a grant line in there for a number of other programs around, the tobacco programs, specifically to deal with pregnant moms.
Right.
I'm not sure if we use tobacco settlement funds, if that, would that be the place that we might,
Where we put it in?
have a discussion about that 500,000?
Do you know, Rich?
I'm not familiar with the proposal. I can consult with BDH and DCF offline, since you're aware. Predominantly funded by the DCF, but
Well, they're
of course,
predominantly by the, but this is, specific to pregnant moms and smoking, cessation programs there. And we've long had, programs that we've been working on, in that area, and there's a number of different programs, and we've not been successful. This has been years in the making, and we are still at the bottom of the country. And so there's a new proposal that's out there, and it would be eligible, I, would think, for, tobacco settlement funds. And that grant, I think, goes through, some of it goes through public health, and,
they do receive tobacco funds, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
so, but it is specific to that, so, I think we'll need to hear back about that.
I made a note, and I will follow up,
We'll find out where the best place where we go, and then we'll leave that open just in case it goes there.
Yep,
Is that one time?
no, that would be base funding, and the question is, also that I would ask in there, what are the other things we're doing for that specific population that is, pregnant?
I can't answer that, but I could flag the fact that there's some kind of tobacco settlement money that's gonna run out.
Yeah, we might have.
I know, if you put it on base, you can,
Well,
Yeah.
that,
yeah,
I
Do
would
it.
wanna sort through what we're doing and where it is.
There's money in there now, but there probably won't be in fiscal year 27. Yeah.
I would say whatever we've been doing for this population has not been successful up to this point.
so I will follow up with that additional question that you have from a programmatic standpoint. And I'm out of my swim lane here, this is more a statewide finance and management question, but I believe base available tobacco fund revenues are fully subscribed to the governor's recommended budget, but, that's,
Well,
Yeah,
partly that's why I say what's been happening has not been all that successful.
there's money in the fund, but yeah, there's other people counting on it. I guess it's good.
so the substance use treatment provider increases a 2% increase, and that's part of the, I think it's part of the other increases.
For the community providers. Okay, so that's also being left over. So that takes us to B314, mental health. House had several changes here as well, but it looks like this is the same provider increases. They added the Howard Center,
Right, the outreach,
but I don't think the governor had the Howard Center in his.
No,
then
And then what's the what is the 249,411, those two add back for the pediatric offices? What is that? I don't remember talking about that.
Federal funds, right?
Those are general fund and federal fund, so it's good, the match, or what is it? Do you know?
which one are you looking at?
B314, the last two,
Okay, well,
Embedded-
yeah,
embedded
embedded
clinicians.
clinicians is,
that's mental health, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
that's
I do
important.
remember hearing about this. And is
those are
this,
the first call workers,
oh yeah.
yeah.
So both, the governor had 270. But then the house has only 20. But then they add back.
They add that.
Is that number right on this sheet? If they, huh? Well, this sheet looks like it's 20,000, it's a $20,000 reduction, but it looks, maybe that's reducing the base by 20,000?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's a negative number. So the governor wanted to reduce it by more. Okay. Do people want to keep this open to these mental health changes?
Well, it's got the provider rate increase.
Oh, yeah, so we kind of have to keep it open. 'cause
Yeah,
we're
but
talking about
I'd
the
rather
provider.
close the other ones.
Okay,
What about-
seminars?
Yeah, the 160, you said somebody kept it in, someone put it back in. Do we know the reason for that, or the Howard Center?
No, it's line 30 on this base sheet. The governor had taken it out, so it was gonna be negative 160, but then the House added that reduction back in.
With no explanation, just,
Well, it's mental health clinicians embedded in pediatric offices.
Well, no, this is the Howard
No.
Center.
Oh,
One
we're
sixty.
looking at Howard Center.
one
Yeah.
up, one up.
Do you know what that's also,
I just wanted the reason, that's all.
yeah,
Well, I think there was confusion about those two things, and the Howard Center is outreach to work with people, and they thought that the mobile crisis would do the same thing, but they're two, mobile crisis and the outreach program are two different programs. So it was confusion about allowing for mobile crisis to take over and do what the outreach workers were doing. And this restores the outreach workers without touching the mobile crisis. That's what I got. And it does help.
well, we're gonna
As
leave
clear
it,
as mud.
we're gonna leave it
Well, they
open.
do different things. One
The
is an
mobile-
ongoing, everyday opportunity to work with people, and the other one is reaching out when there's a crisis, when someone is doing something in the community that needs an instant response. And the outreach workers are those who are working with folks on a regular basis.
Is this in Winooski or the Howard
Or-
Center?
Let's say, Howard Center.
Or-
Burlington?
Yeah, it stretches out. Howard Center's pretty broad, has a large geographic,
They do work with throughout the whole county.
oh yeah, and more. You have a hand.
Okay, oh, yes, go ahead, yeah.
Senator Lyons, regarding those line items, DMH may be able to provide more information if you or other committee members are interested in terms of why those reductions were proposed in the governor's recommended budget. I think you were potentially alluding to some overlap in the different services now that there is a full state rollout of mobile crisis as well as onboarding CCBHCs over the coming years. So I just wanted to provide that.
If you could send us some, send
Well, but,
information.
okay,
to
but then
the
we should hear
committee.
from Howard Center too, because I think there's a difference of
Yeah,
the
well-
type of work that each one does.
Just so we can understand what it is.
Yeah,
Okay, yes.
I did have a comment about the substance use program, if I may.
What did we talk
The
about?
rate increase for substance use providers was intended as a rate increase for substance use residential treatment providers. And I just wanted to point that out. That's what the gross amount is based on.
Okay. D315, mental health facilities.
good.
Close that one out. Children, families, admin, support services, the house. Add the money to make 211, be 24/7 in the base. I think we increased this last year in the, as a one-time So they could be 24/7. And this would put that money into the base. Anybody have any concerns about that? You want to close that out? Well, do that. Okay. Family services, be sub 317.
Yeah.
Close that out. Child development.
I'd like to leave 318 open,
318 open.
because I'm working on some language around the CCFAP
Okay.
program.
And
Your comment, no?
give some context. This is in conjunction with what's gonna be coming up. This is where the governor took the 19 million swap, and, the House did 14 million swap, and then instead of 19, they took 4, put it into rates, and then did the rest towards the swap. Right, so the governor had the 19 million. This is where the money was coming in, the payroll tax, and they were switching it for GF. The House didn't do the full 19, they did 14, and then the difference is that CC tax rate. So it took 4 out for rates. So I think you may be thinking about it, imagine the president doing that in conjunction with the whole 19.
Right.
So,
Part of the conversation.
well, the conversation that we had here earlier, would you set up a special fund to hold some money, in anticipation of, the future, so.
Yeah, there are a number of ideas still floating around, but I should, by the next time we come up with it, have specific language. I'm going to run that by the chair of health and welfare, so.
Okay.
This one,
Yeah, that's helpful. B319, we can close that out. B320. Then we can close that out.
Okay, 321,
321,
that's the GA program.
yeah, do you want to leave this open?
Well, yes, well, it is consistent with the governor's proposal. And, but at the same time, H91 is being worked on in our committee. So maybe we should probably leave it open. It doesn't mean that it won't be as it is. I mean, the House didn't change anything.
Senator Westman, did you have?
In 318, to back up, just to raise it as an issue. There was a program that had been an initiative in this committee that worked in tech centers to encourage young people to go into childcare. The program is oversubscribed. I think it was about, I don't think it's a lot of money. I think it's more like 160,000. But the House, the governor and the House took the money out. So it would be in that area. They've got like 75 young people that have gone into the program, and it's very successful. And it is one of the top priorities for Let's Grow Kids.
You can work with the pro tem and
Well, I don't know who's working on it. I'm saying it, maybe you're
we
gonna
could
take
add
over.
it to the, you guys can work on this joint proposal. So back to general assistance.
Yeah, so the plan is to have the general assistance program go forward as it is
But is this
for
just the?
26. And then 91 will make changes to,
general assistance is not just $10 million, so this can't be.
No.
So that's,
This is,
No.
Mayor,
yeah,
so just to flag, there's the 30.5, it's in the one-time.
oh, right, that's,
And so that's where
this is the base.
this is, if you were to put it in the base, this is where it goes, it's in one-time, but it's connected and along with H91, so
And H91, that 10 million was one time?
one-time.
That's one time, and it might be less, so we'll find
But
out.
what happens is not in the budget, because they just left it on the bottom
Right,
line,
yeah.
because the bill passed it after the budget.
But do you still want to leave this open, Sarah Lynn?
Well, yes, because the 10 million may change
Okay,
based on the testimony we've started to hear. Could be less.
okay. 3 Squares Vermont, B322,
Where's that?
at the
Oh,
very
down at the
bottom.
very bottom.
Riverside 308.
Yeah, so I assume we can close that out. Reach up,
I actually have a question about reach up that we haven't talked about. We're giving increases across to a lot of different providers and service agencies. And I don't know the last time that reach up had an increase. We had talked about, but, you know, helping reach up last year. and didn't
Jane
do
would
it.
talk about it.
3 years ago.
Yeah, we haven't
And,
done it.
And it was like the only time it's got an increase in 20 years. It was an initiative out of this committee.
Right.
The rates for, in Reach Up are abysmal.
So I'm wondering if we can just hold it open and then consider,
We'll look for your letter from the Health and Welfare Committee.
yeah. Hopefully it'll be there.
LIHEAP, I just heard that all the federal LIHEAP workers were fired. So I don't know how they're gonna send us their LIHEAP money with no workers.
I find myself wondering if you're going to eliminate programs like LIHEAP, FEMA for disaster recovery. This doesn't seem like a president who's worried about another election. And yet he says he plans to remain in office. So when I put those two together, it's rather disquieting.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he's gonna declare war.
And this helps fossil fuel dealers, but it sends up.
Well, let's keep it in there. Let's close it.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any, we could close it out, but I don't think anything we do about the federal impact on that program, but I mean, it's almost all federal funds. I don't know if they're gonna get it. B325, OEO. Okay, closing that out. Okay. B326, weatherization.
I have that one, and nothing safe for now, but they are gonna be facing a funding cliff in the future.
Is that like 27 or 20?
It's-
Do you-
It was, yeah.
Or kind of depends on how fast they go.
Yeah, but as soon as could be 27. It's gonna start to,
Just as a heads up, there is some language to some of this, the 325, for example.
That you
But
want, that you'll
don't
be,
leave it open. I'm
that you'll
just-
propose
I'm
later.
just saying there's language. Well, there
There
probably-
is language, or you're going to present?
No, there is language currently. That looks okay.
Okay. Well, there should be language for all of it, right?
Yeah.
Secure residential treatment, B327.
Oh, yeah, I have something in mind. Oh, right, so when you calculate this, let me just give me a second to look at the data that I have. Okay. So,
Almost all grants to providers, or to one.
There is a deficit at the bottom line for this because of how the money is from a carry forward. And I cannot tell you how it was done, and maybe,
Is the,
joint fiscal can help with
is
this.
the deficit in Department of Children and Families, or like at the, whoever they're granting
The balance to
funding
be
at?
paid for the facility
Provider.
after looking at,
Because this is one facility,
Funding.
right?
some of it is one time, but some of it is base funding.
But it's just one place.
Yeah, $1.7 million.
But
I can't,
do you have something, Rich? Yeah. Not you, Rich. Not
can you help us with this one?
Mr. Downer.
Yes, Rich Donahue again for the record. Yes, the current projected shortfall that would occur in state fiscal year 27 is approximately $1.7 million, based on delay in citing a permanent replacement facility and the ongoing costs for the temporary facilities that are currently in operation. It is a projection, and those costs could change up or down, but you are correct that the current understanding is $1.7 million that would materialize in fiscal year 27.
So for now, it's kind of
For now,
like
we're open.
weatherization, or the warning for
For
the.
secure residential youth facilities.
And was the place located? I can't remember how that ended up.
Virgin?
That continues to be in process.
Okay. Okay, so we can close that out.
Diplomatic.
Yeah,
B327. B328, disability termination services. Close that out. B329, admin, closing that out. B330, the House made some changes. This is about the provider rate increases that they'll pay. So do we want to keep this open as part of the overall look at all those rate increases? Is that part of that whole?
they should, yeah.
Okay, so 330 is left open. 331. Dale, I think we can close that out. 332, vote.
Still called vote for that, yeah.
So we'll close that out. That brings us 333. Dale Developmental Services. And this is another
So this is open.
open as well, connected to the provider increases. 334, TBI. Base waiver. So the House increased, was this
Part 2%.
just part of the 2%?
Correct.
Does that have anything to do with that TBI fund that we closed in the budget adjustment? Not related. Okay, so we'll leave that open. That takes us to 335, admin for corrections. We can close that out. 336, the parole board, we can close that out. Correctional education. This is something Sears had always wanted for the education fund, right?
Exactly. Community High School of Vermont.
Yeah.
And then the House would pull it out. It would all go along with our business.
I agree with Senator Sears.
I do too. But probably not the year where we want to.
Fine, yeah,
Money in that,
we gotta have something to talk about in the conference committee, and, it's a whole new committee.
Right, but putting additional millions into the ed fund, not
4.19.
really cuts across everything else we're trying to do.
Yep.
Oh gee,
Like buy the
You're
rate
such a
now.
party pooper.
So we closing
I think it's a good
337?
idea.
We're closing 327, but we're
Done.
spending time talking.
Okay.
Well,
Okay,
Next year.
338.
Close.
We will close that out. justice reinvestment. Do we have something on this? No. We used to talk about it a lot more, but we don't these days. So closing 338.1, 339.
Dick's concern was always, was the money being reinvested as it should be,
Right.
rather than scooped for other areas of the budget. So I don't know the specifics well enough to know, but the House went along with what the governor did, so.
Yeah. They're granting out all the money. I guess, yeah, we don't know what the actual savings was, or how they got to the 11 million. But that's for corrections. Out-of-state beds, 339. Also, sometimes talked a lot about, but not today.
Not today.
B340, recreation, I think we can close that out.
Yep.
It's under work program. Yep. I thought they were ending it. Or is that just something else?
I was hearing about the, work crews from, who was it? At a VSEA meeting, there was a, member who was very worked up about work crews. I'm not sure this is,
That's different.
yeah.
Wasn't this thing they were going to shift? They were ending some types
Yeah,
of
like
programs, but they
the
were gonna do
furniture
others.
making and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
they were gonna do other things.
Did we have something in the VA about that? We did have. So whatever that was, the VA is gonna come into this bill, so we'll see it again. Right?
Yes, the furniture shop and the
That
license
was the
plates.
pay we gave them, I think.
Yeah, there was deficit. It was one of the deficit capitalization things. But I assume this one is, okay, so we can close this out, but we'll see that when we take the stuff in the VA and move it into here, we're gonna have to talk about it again. Speaking of things from the VA, then we'll move into the big bill for Veterans Home, which I didn't listen to the testimony in the House, but without a VA, my understanding is that Vermont Veterans Home is gonna run out of money before the budget is gonna get passed. The administration is finding a way to keep their bills paid. So we'll close that out.
The governor did say several times publicly that he could get by without a VA.
Right.
So,
The Commission on Women,
Yes, but
that's good.
What is it? Not,
Commission on Women.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
is that our line?
Well, let's see, they look at policies that would bring, underrepresented group into, for example, economic, equivalency, so they would support policies like that would bring women's salaries into line with, salaries of others who are higher with the same level of experience. You've heard about the equal pay day. So we know that right now women are paid, is it 87%, 87 cents on the dollar for every dollar that a man earns? And so they
About
would.
the same position.
Yeah, for the same position and same experience. So they'll look at those kinds of policies. Then they also look at programs that might improve women's abilities to compete in the workplace or other environments. So we can
And it's an appointed commission.
do a lot of good work for us.
Is it within a certain agency of government?
It's out of the agency of administration.
AOA?
Yep. You don't like that?
No, I'm just trying to follow
He wants to get
What do you
appointed.
say?
Do we have something we can refer to or look at, or? I just wanna know what it's about.
Well, they
If
were
you wanna
here,
put
they
this
were
through,
here
that's fine.
this past week, on equal pay day. I forget, was it
I guess I should have
yesterday?
been a part of that
It
then.
was yesterday.
Next year, you should go
Yeah.
next year, equal pay day.
Yeah, remind me.
Okay,
That's the big one.
Put it on your
That
radar.
really is the big one.
I don't care one way or the other. I just wanna know what it was, that's all.
Okay, we'll get you some more.
We can break it.
Are we gonna close that one out?
Yeah,
Okay.
both, retired senior volunteer program 344.
He's gonna give himself.
That out?
For asking a question?
No.
No, it's good. We need to know what this stuff is.
RSVP,
Yeah.
we closed that one out.
Yep.
Yeah, that one's really important.
Green Mountain Care Board,
Not even gonna ask.
I assume we need to leave this open.
Yes, we do.
You were gonna zero this out.
Huh?
No throwing stuff.
I don't.
We will get more information about that from Health and Welfare.
Well, we already passed our bill over S-126, which asks, there are two positions that the governor has put in for the Green Mountain Care Board for their work on AHEAD, the AHEAD program that is being worked on between AHS, the governor's office, and the Green Mountain Care Board, and that would require additional analysis for global budgeting.
3 positions.
And so there are positions currently in the budget. S-126, which was our big healthcare bill, has significant amount of work for the board and would increase the number of positions, I think, by 2. So there were 3 in the budget,
3.
and then 126 would ask for 2 more for the next fiscal year for work on reference-based pricing, global budgeting, and other regulatory.
Do they only need 3 positions to do the head? I thought they said they need 7.
Well, they said they need more, but what they really need is 5 for
How
this
many are
year.
you asking for?
2 more.
How many would I want?
No, but how many are you gonna ask us for in here?
Well, I would ask for at least 5 positions. That would be out of
5 above the 3 that's been
2
recommended?
additions.
2 additional.
2 additional, okay.
It would be better to have more, obviously, and there's also funding that's needed for any contract work. There's also money in 126 for AHS to complete its work on global budgeting and community activity planning, putting the plan in place. So that is going to be a recommendation that comes from our committee on 126. So we passed it out, we took the money out, and what we will be doing with our proposal when we finish it in committee is to have, I think 126 will be at the top of the list.
I just have one question. Do we know, for the lack of a better term, where AHEAD is it moving ahead or where are we?
There have been discussions between the board and AHS and CMS, and they haven't taken out. They said they're still working on it. They may change some of the contract language. For example, the E in AHEAD is equity, and it looks like the federal government will suggest equality or some other term. They will also be looking at other criteria and requirements around how the global budgeting is done. Whether the agency and the board and the administration, governor's office continue with it will be contingent on how they see those criteria and recommendations coming back from federal government. It's not a legislative decision necessarily, but.
What position?
Yeah. The positions are already in there from the governor's budget.
3 positions.
Yes.
But
And
you're asking for 2 more.
I am.
Okay.
Yeah, and because the work that we're doing is some of the work that we're doing on reference-based pricing, which is important to have, and hospital budget sustainability is really critically important. Otherwise, our crisis is going to be worse.
Ellen, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow Senator Lyons is saying, in the bill, 126, this came over, it was 5 positions.
Yes.
In the bill, 850,000 for the positions, and another 500,000 for contracts, another 150 for electronic hospital budget data. So it was 1.5 million for Green Mountain Care Board. And then for AHS, it was 2 limited services positions and a bunch of other work that came to about 1.775 million. Well, I've heard from AHS that it would actually, they think it would actually cost more now. So that's why I want to clarify what was in that bill. Doesn't mean that's what's gonna go in your budget, it's just
Sure.
flag that amount.
Okay, so we're leaving the care board open. D 346. And we have the bids, we close that out. That takes us through all of human services. And brings us to labor, which we did yesterday. So, but we didn't finish yesterday. That takes us, I think, to transportation, we did transportation, okay. And then it took us to debt service. So I think it takes us to the one time, but we did the one time. Is that the end? Or is there anything after one time?
All right.
That's all, folks.
Somebody's giving me a
Without objection, adjourn, hearing none.
Okay, so now we can look at the base appropriations, which some of them we already talked about, but I thought it'd be good to go through this sheet as the purple top. We'll do a 5-minute break after this.
Slave driver.
I think it should go quick. We talked a lot about them when we went through the web report.
Which sheet you got there, Mr.
The
Chair?
one that has a purple top,
Purple top.
front and back, it says
They go back.
summary of base general fund appropriation. Changes. So the web report can be the total amount. That's the one right there.
I didn't take home.
Okay. So, just like we did yesterday, just gonna go down this list. So the first one on line 5, the top is the appropriations transfers. No difference there. There's no other information there, so we don't have to do the purple section, 1 through 4. So, line 5. This is an additional position that the House put in for pre-charge. I would like to keep it open because there was a home improvement fraud coordinator that they talked about. They didn't get in the House thing. It's another $80,000. And I'd also like to still consider the Solicitor General position that we had in the BAA to help try to. For example, if we're not getting the LIHEAP money because they fired all the employees and we have to file a lawsuit, I want to make sure we have the capacity to keep up with all that. So keeping 5 open. So line 6 is the pre-charge diversion that the House added in.
I think we both talked about the fact that this is pre-charge for 4 counties.
Right.
And the rest of the state is sitting out there, ready to go. And, it would be another 600,000 if we did it all in base. Last year, that 1.1 was put in one time to get, it started. So
1.1 just gets it started in the places where.
no, the 1.1 does the 4 counties.
4 counties.
It's already in. The rest of the state is sitting there. Both Franklin and Moyle are ready to
So
go.
if you wanted to increase it to other counties, it'd have to be 1.7, is that what you're saying?
Yep.
And we had good testimony this morning in judiciary about the key thing they push about it is how rapidly it operates on the system to remove cases that would otherwise linger for years and cost money.
It's absolutely working in Chittenden and Washington counties.
So we'll leave it open with the consideration of adding 600,000. Is that what you're saying? Wesley?
The 600,000 to the other 10 counties.
They said it does, that's what Will said.
Well, I understood her to be saying not all of the other 10 are ready to go or agree on the use of the program, but there are plenty to use the,
600 gets those that are ready to
Yeah.
go.
including Frank.
Some were in the process.
And when I look at this, if we did last year, some one time, because it is fit in start around that. It would be better if, it was in base, but it doesn't have to all be in base. We did start the other 4 programs, the 1.1 in one-time money last year, so. But I just think we need to raise the issue because this will save money.
Even if you look at the 1.1, putting it into the base, and just give them one time the 600, see how it sugars off the course of the year, as to who's up and running, who's not, that'd be another
And then
option.
take a comprehensive look at it next year.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Nolan. Okay, so we'll keep that open. This is, line 7 is for judiciary tech fund replacement. The judiciary, the House reduced this by over $1 million, but if I had a note that maybe when Robin or Representative Shai was in here, that so the judiciary was okay with this reduction. Do you remember that? Does anybody remember that? We'll leave it open
I
and
don't
try
remember
to
that.
get more information on that.
Believe, depends on the budget adjustment,
Yeah.
and so to the extent that's in the state that it's in, sort of what amount needs to go in what fiscal year, depends on sort of when, what decisions are made, but we can reach out.
So was that 800 part of this? When you're talking about the budget adjustment, 800 for the IT?
That was different.
That was different,
That was
okay.
different, yeah, in the, judiciary, and like their line item, there was some increase in general funds to deal with the, tech fund offset that 800.
So the tech fund gets filled by court fees and things like that, and that, those are down, so they wanted to. So maybe they thought they could reduce it by 2.16, at least for next year. Maybe they would leave the deficit for future years.
They were in this morning, and then they mentioned this, I can reach back out to judiciary on this to see what their thoughts are.
Okay. The next one is the, also judiciary, the COLA increases for deputies, basically.
Yep, it's an oversight on their part. It's a must for all the security services in 13 out of 14 counties. It's just for security services.
I assume we're okay with this. Is anybody not okay with this? So I'll say we close that one out. The vacancy savings from sheriff's, state attorneys. So the House removed it because they need those, they have those positions.
The House put it in, right?
Yeah,
Well,
And they reduced
they
it.
agreed with the governor.
No,
the governor didn't have
The
it.
governor has
He doesn't
nothing.
have anything.
the governor said they kind of needed 600,000 of vacant,
Oh, the
vacancy
600,
savings.
okay. I'm on
And
the
then the House
wrong line.
said, no, we're gonna have to spend that money. There isn't gonna be savings.
So does that, that allows them to hire those positions?
Yeah. Or even keep them. It might have been like they
Or
already had
keep
them, yeah. They were like, we don't have vacancies. That's at least what I recall.
Vacancy savings is a bit of a question mark for me. But I do have something in reference to which I just received.
I'm gonna close that out, but, you know, we might hear more from our judiciary committee on some of these things, but for now, I'll close that out.
You don't want to discuss their vacancy savings? Okay.
I don't know, is it, you have something on that?
Yeah, I have a proposal for this, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Out of the state's attorneys and sheriffs, I might add, the House proposal was $650. My proposal is we utilize $95,000 from the vacancy savings for one position and $100,000 to the victim's advocate. Those positions, those 4 state's attorneys positions they had for limited services, where they already have the funding for it, and they simply request to move those into, that we've had this discussion, into permanent positions. And they want an IT support and IT fiscal. And I was able to say that if we can combine that position, it's something that we can look at. So the House proposal is $650 and ours would be at $550. The sheriffs, we would use $426,000 of the vacancy savings to add 3 transport deputies. And shift funds from the SA vacancy savings to add 1 victim advocate position when they asked for 6, obviously. So we're looking at a total of 1.3. 1.3.
Utilizes the same money.
It's the
Utilizes
same
the
money,
same
right?
money, plus gives them their positions that they want, they already have the funding for. Well, you can leave it open, but I just wanted to talk
Are
about
you,
this.
you're, the same money you're saying that those 2 items, both in line 8.1 and 9, does that affect the transport deputies too, or that's just the 650,000 in line?
No, it's using 8.1 and the 8.9 would be the, where am I?
So where are you getting 8.1, was this 6?
Remove vacancy savings, then they put the transport deputies in. So that's just the sheriff's office. That's just using $426,000 from the sheriff's office of the 650 vacancy savings.
So you don't use 1.3 total? Use
Combined,
4,
this is the state's attorneys and sheriffs, so it's a combined
but
cost, yes.
but you do use it all?
No, it's not all of it, no.
No?
There's still vacancy savings in both.
Okay.
This is additional vacancy savings, or this, the 650 vacancy savings?
It's
in line?
reducing it,
It's reducing.
not eliminating.
Right.
I support the Norris proposal.
I don't understand the North proposal.
Well, you're not supposed to.
We'll leave it open.
Leave it open.
So 8.1, we'll get the slideshow. I'll have North do a PowerPoint.
I can do that.
Okay, I'll put Norris proposal on here.
Does that affect line 9 as well?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Or it does. That's part of my
That's how
confusion.
I understood it, but
Yeah, I thought that we were understanding that we're gonna use the vacancy savings to fill these. And today they said, no, they want to use the $650,000 vacancy savings and add 3 additional positions. That was not my intent.
That's not related to the transport.
That's exactly related to the transport. That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Okay.
So we're gonna have to discuss that again, Amy.
This will also be part of the Norris.
I love it.
Okay,
So those 2 lines go together,
yeah.
A1 and 9.
0. 10, J-Talk transfer. We'll tell Westman when it comes back that we did do it.
It's gone.
But we'll close it out. Since Weston's not here. Did you have a proposal on DPS radios, or was that different somewhere else?
No, I believe this is the DPS, it's the radios and, what was the other thing I wanted? Radios and firearms.
Firearms, yeah.
I think it originally came in at $920,000.
On here it's 900, but it could be rounding.
And the House dropped it to $800,000, 500 of which are gonna go toward radios, and the remainder was toward firearms. I support the radio replacement.
This is base.
Yeah, this is supposed to be one-time funds, I thought.
This is base, but maybe they added some one time. That's what it is. They had the 50,000 as one time.
Oh, the 50,000, okay. My concern is I can support the radios. When it comes to firearms, I didn't have any, I had a little concern about what they're gonna do when I asked the colonel with existing firearms. They weren't sure as to what they're gonna do with it. So that's my concern.
You
as far
mean
as
the
just-
ones that were outmoded, what happens?
The radios, the portables and the mobiles are one thing, that's an officer safety thing, they need to be able to
Yeah.
communicate with the base, obviously, but the firearms is my concern, it's not that I don't want to give them their firearms, but I was looking for a more construct onto, as to what we're gonna do with the other firearms. And I said they didn't know as of yet, so I'd like to have an answer as to what's your plans for
That was my question as well.
the other firearms.
Because in the past, we've had the state get in the business of taking on firearms and then either trying to store them, destroy them, or sell them. And there are drawbacks for all of those things.
Well, in my personal opinion, is if they sold them to an FFL, federal firearms license, it wouldn't become their problem no more, other than, I'm not gonna get into that, but,
Yeah.
because they don't own them no more. But my concern is if in fact that does happen, then being on here for the first year, what happens to those monies if they do, where those go? General fund, what happens to those monies?
Probably the general.
Probably not.
General fund. So I'm just,
you wanna
radios
get
is
the-
fine, I want a more,
Do you wanna close out the radio equipment?
yeah,
You're okay with
radios
that?
is fine. I just want a little more defined answer on what you're gonna do with the firearms.
Firearms 14, we'll keep that open. We'll go back up to 12. I don't remember talking about the school safety center.
I don't remember that either. I had that marked.
I just don't remember ever talking, that's what I have, is like, well,
Is it one school
is that?
safety
I
center?
don't know, for money to help school. I know at one point we were giving out grants to schools to help. school
100
safety.
150,000 wouldn't be
So we'll leave it open until we get more info.
much for
on
grant.
I'll inquire when I hear about the firearms, I'm sure someone watching.
Do we even know what it is?
No,
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 sounds good.
I like all of the words it uses.
Yeah. 150,000, that's a good number. So we're leaving that open. 13 cameras, I think, I didn't know that this was body cameras, I assume just replacing or new body cameras.
and we also have the firearm
There was,
replacement.
elsewhere, there was money to
For the-
process all of it
We
and
did?
store.
The data,
14.
that was in the,
Oh, okay.
the state's
I guess
attorneys
that
and
was-
sheriffs had that need. I don't remember DPS talking about that. Are we okay with, body cameras?
Yeah.
Close that out. And then firearm replacement. While we were gone, we decided not to agree with the JTOC transfer.
That's good. That's fine with me, just give me the purchase and use tax back from the ed fund, and I'll be happy. Can I put that in that line?
That deal wasn't
What?
discussed while you were
You need
gone.
to take that up with Representative Ansel.
Well,
That was her
she's
parting
gone, and there was a former representative in the House that said there's nothing deader than a dead politician.
Ouch.
I'm glad I'm a public servant.
An elected official.
Okay, on that note,
Sorry.
we're down to 15. Well, yeah, we provoked you, so, circle. Hazard mitigation grants manager, the
$1,000.
appropriation is actually $5,000, so it looks like
Yeah.
100 because of rounding. So we can, okay with that $5,000?
Yeah.
You were okay with that, Bruce? You want to
Yep.
hold the 5,000?
No, I say go for it. Put all 5,000 of that into the economy.
Okay, that's gonna help. The emergency food, we
We did have a question on that.
had some question about the food bank.
I will check on that one also.
Because my understanding is this money would be reserved until they needed it, and they would go to the food
Well,
bank to buy it. But we're not
I
sure.
had a conversation with John Seals about this, and they are, they've been having discussions. There's no MOU and there's no agreement between the food bank and, emergency management about this, and they're in the process of talking about that, so
And the governor didn't put any money in it. Do you want to leave it open?
Yes,
I would leave that open.
Okay. Yeah. The grants for returning vets, the House reduced it by $100,000, which they said was based on actual anticipated spending they got from the military department.
Can we discuss that? We didn't see any reversions on that last year from the military, did we? So I would recommend putting $100,000 back in. They're anticipating more folks returning. That's just my recommendations, my thoughts on it.
Okay, we'll leave it open and see about that 100,000. maybe we can try to have military come in and tell us what they told the House, or if things have changed, or. Okay, the canine trainer.
We just had testimony this morning about Mojo and Kaya.
That was the Attorney General's office.
Right, but the canine corps.
Yeah, the Canine Corps, they have 75 in their budget already. They're asking for the additional 40,000, which the House put into, so.
You support that?
I support that.
Okay, people are okay with that?
I can't believe they didn't show us pictures of the dog.
I know, right?
I mean, you're trying to get money.
Yeah, that's usually what you do. Okay, we like dogs, we're going with that. The line 17, conservation districts, the House increased, or no, yeah, this is an increase to the base. We've talked about this the other day, their base is 612, I think, right?
With this addition.
But this,
You're right, their base is today 612, this would increase it to 600, this would increase it an additional, I thought,
That's,
or not.
because it's at 500,
that's-
it's at
Oh, yeah,
500,
500.
and then the 112 gets it to 612.
Because that's why it's a weird number. But it doesn't show that the governor's reducing it, but
no,
it should be, or is that somewhere else?
Right,
If it's 612 now, wouldn't there be a negative 112 in the governor recommends?
so it's sort of, they're not like, I wouldn't say transparent about reducing it, maybe because it's a smaller amount of money.
Or they just reduced it in ag budget or something?
Well, you would see it if it had last year, but this in the base is the bill that gets introduced and was the governor at 500,000.
But then if the governor's at 500,000 and last year they were at 612, why wouldn't it say negative 112?
You would see it if you had a column here that talked about last year's.
Well, that's what all these are, changes from last year's.
it's, you need an FY 25.
We can look at it.
I thought we did see it somewhere.
It might be up and down, but maybe the way that we're doing it, we can kind of read what's coming out of the governors and the exact.
Okay, well, that's,
So we'll look a little different.
that's just,
But the
Technical
governor
question.
has all of his increases we see in this.
but it, and his decreases, like down below, which then parentheses.
Oh, yeah, you do have a few of them, yeah.
But that doesn't matter so much. The question is, do we want to increase their base by $110,000? Or
I would love to
some
see it.
different amount?
Be more, I mean, their ask was 3 million total, which I realize is a lot. So I'd love to at least hold it open for further
Okay.
discussion.
We'll leave that open. The Vermont Access Network,
Yes.
like that. At one point, I think I mentioned the books about adding the request for the community radio, but they actually are looking to work with Department of Public Safety as kind of a safety grants, so they can do public announcements during emergencies. So I think we can close this out. So the Human Rights Commission, the 2 additional positions from the pool.
I would like to hold that open. Eventually, I think I'll suggest one additional position. The plan, as Big and I had talked about it, was to put these 2 positions in the budget adjustment, and then in the big bill to ask for 1 or 2 more. Since we lost the budget adjustment, they've gotten 0, and the House has just gone to the 2 positions. But if we have the ability, I think we should staff them up more.
They have had huge vacancy savings problems. In addition to that, and it was the budget that got presented by the governor. Did it deal with the vacancy savings going forward?
There were no there were no positions for Human Rights Commission in the governor's budget.
But there was some of the, I can't remember in the VA, if the governor's VA had the vacancy saving changes for the Human Rights Commission. I think it might have. But we had it in the VA, both
It
VAs.
wasn't a big.
But it was like $65,000.
It was like $65,000 vacancy savings, and this is a very small staff, and so
So we'll,
I'd like to make sure that the vacancy savings is taken care of.
that'll be part of JFO's task of adding everything from the VA into here. That's still pertinent. So we'll leave that Human Rights Commission open. The Global Commitment Match, we can close that out. And although, does that change with those?
Yeah, you'd wanna leave that.
Yeah, because of those, because we're talking about all the increases for the community service providers. Jump the gun. Same with these next ones. Leave these open. 21, 22, 23, 24 are all open. The 211 increase, I mean, the real only question I think here for me is like, do we want to make it a base appropriation to where just in the future, future legislators wouldn't see this, it would just be in the base as a 24-hour 7 service. We're okay with that?
Yes,
Okay, so we'll close 25 out. The recovery campus funding, we talked about that during the
yeah,
road report, so we want to leave that open?
well,
You're gonna,
yeah, because I don't want to include it unless there's some language that supports what's actually happening.
But you want the money, and
Yeah, we want the money, but we want
Right,
more
well,
than
the
one.
house- they eliminated the recovery campus funding,
Yes,
but we might not.
yeah. Exactly.
Line 27, the re-engagement beds, DTH. I can't remember what this one is.
You had the comment. Do you know what that one
what's
is?
that?
Do you know what that one is?
The DTH.
No.
The re-engagement beds?
I don't.
The aftercare navigators were when you come out of treatment.
Yes.
What is SCP? You know,
Substance use prevention.
oh, it's
What do we do in
That's
27?
just a section of DEH.
What do we do in 27?
and Donna, do
Open.
you know anything about that?
That is related to recovery campus.
Yes.
Both of those were.
Both of those.
Yes, leave them both open.
I have made note for follow-up.
Please, yeah.
Question.
I thought I was gonna get language this afternoon. I haven't seen it yet.
So the re-engagement beds and aftercare navigators were part of that campus?
The
Recovery
re-engagement beds were not part of the campus per se, but part of the continuum model,
Okay,
and the re-engagement beds remain intact at the moment, I believe, from the House's version.
they kept the re-engagement beds, but not the campus funding or the aftercare navigators. Okay. There was, I have a note here about, they were maybe gonna look at it as part of the opioid settlement funds. But I don't know.
For which one?
For the aftercare navigators.
Yeah, probably.
That there was and there's an opioid settlement bill.
Which is gonna come over here.
Is it still working
Soon.
its way to them?
It's in our committee. We'll send it to you. It's all out of the settlement funds.
Right.
So I don't know that this is part of that. I don't think this is
It's
part of
not in there now.
it. It's just
It's
not.
not in there. Well, I
And
guess-
it's really, I mean,
I think when Representative Sy was here, she might have said like, oh, we took it out of here, but maybe you could fund it through the opioid settlement fund.
just to comment on that, if we do that, then I had discussion about that today. And if we start dipping into the opioid settlement fund, going outside of the committee process, the recommendations, advisory committee for the opioid settlement, we begin to change the whole process. not,
Right.
I'm actually not keen on doing that. I would love to do it because there's a lot that we could do.
You're not keen on it, but you'd love to do it.
Yes, I know, but we won't do
Your
it.
heart in your head.
We won't do it. This is like being split in half, right? Same thing. Can't do it.
Okay, well, we'll leave those open.
Yeah.
The alternatives to emergency bed, there was agreement with the governor and House. Did we agree with that?
Do we close it or leave it?
Oh,
Did you know anything about that?
Aftercare navigators.
Weston?
this is 314. Let me just check. I might have some information on it.
Yeah, B 314.
I forgot what we just said about that.
I don't have a note on it. I think we. Donna, did you have any comment on that? Do you know what it is?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Again, this is sometimes referred to as mental health urgent care.
Oh,
There was HCBS one time funding being used currently to fund this. The governor's recommended proposal adds base funding to continue that program.
It wasn't based before.
It is not currently based, correct?
It was 400,000 more or less.
360.
Okay. I was looking at the governor's original proposal. Okay, we should leave it open.
Okay, we'll leave it open.
We need it. We do need it.
Now, to the Howard Center outreach that the House,
We should have Howard, so because
well,
there's,
the House added back the reduction
Yeah.
the governor took.
well, yes, good.
And the governor also recommended to not include the embedded clinicians.
And we
For
should
mental
keep
health.
them in place.
So we'll leave these two open.
Yeah.
The CFAP caseload savings, we want to keep open as well as the
Yeah.
shift to the special fund. This is part of the Baruch proposal. Maybe the Baruch Weston,
No,
depending.
he said he was taking over and going and
Going. The HOP program.
I'll have a comment if he makes a mistake.
There will be advice and consent from Senator Wilson.
Emily,
Just a one quick on that one, we had a note.
on the HOP,
On the
CFAP?
the infant and toddler rates of 5.5%, the calculation was a little off, so we'll increase by about $200,000. If you just did what the House did, the increase is actually about $200,000 more.
So they have 490 difference, but it should be more like 510. Okay, so leave that open. The DCF, the OEO HOP program,
This might be, this would be part of could be part of H91, so I think until we are definitive about that, we should hold that.
okay?
It is, yeah, but there, right, there's global commitment funds in there. Nolan, can you help me with that?
So the HOP funds and the regular GA housing stuff, what the House did was what's current program,
Right,
right? So they didn't touch anything. So there's nothing in 91 that changes anything for fiscal year 26.
right.
The only thing that it does.
That's
is
true,
10
it's all the
million.
same.
It's all 10 million one time, but an existing program, the HOP funding and the GA, current GA temporary housing proposal are all in the budget and they didn't change anything from the government.
So, but the issue will be if we're holding the GA constant and consistent with the governor's proposal, this could be affected if we change it.
I think what the 91 does, it doesn't touch 26.
Not 91, I'm talking about the GA proposal that's currently in the budget. If we decide to make changes to that as it came over from the House,
It might not affect this.
it might not,
You can
okay,
leave it
then
open just to be safe, but
I don't have to leave it
I think
open.
that
I'm
everything you're
fine
dealing
with
with is
closing.
that one time in the
I think we should
100
close it.
section.
Okay. Is anybody opposed to closing 326, line 34? Okay, so line 34 is closed. B 329, line 35, conflict-free case management.
Could leave it open.
Okay, there's some global commitment there. Line 36, fail pathways to partnership grants.
Do you know about that one, Rich? I think that's yours anyway.
I am not as clear on that one.
Yeah, me either.
Let me check on that.
It's global commitment. So it's match.
Don't,
I don't know about that one either.
Okay, well, we'll get more information,
Yeah.
but we'll probably be able to close those out.
I think I have a meeting tomorrow that I can find out about that.
Okay,
I think that's not the first time that grant's gone out.
yes, Donnie?
That's actually, I believe, and I defer to JFO, a typo. That was a federal funds increase of $1.5 million in the governor's recommended budget for spending authority, and not global commitment.
Oh,
Is that
The pathways to partnership?
correct?
Okay, well, we'll look at it, come back. So line 37 is Department of Corrections pretrial extension. How does this relate to the other pretrial? Oh, I guess that was pretrial diversion.
So a piece of that pretrial extension, the way the program got started originally was a grant through corrections. So this must relate to the 1.1 in that the original piece of that this came as a grant through corrections.
Did a lot of corrections to do some of this.
So
Didn't
I would think that if we're in support of the 1.1, we would do the
What is DOC doing?
They gave the original grant, they got, these pretrial, in diversion going.
So this is to extend the pretrial, but we talked about extending it, the 600,000 up in line 6 to go to the AGs.
I'm not
We need to
exact,
do both.
and I'm not exactly,
Is
how
this
that.
pretrial supervision? Because
This is pretrial extension.
It has to be
Well,
with
there was a pilot program that we did last time.
just in Orleans, I think it was.
Yeah,
Yeah, Donnie.
That's correct. This
Yeah.
is the extension of that pilot to
Yeah.
expand to one more region.
Supervision.
Yes.
so in other words, trying to stop the problem of people who have been put into the system and then offend multiple times on their way to court.
So because there has more supervision, they're still released, but.
Right, so they'd be checking in and as we do once they've been through the process.
Okay. So people want to close this out?
Yep.
Okay. Veterans Home, this is to rebase their budget, which we didn't do that. I guess we did that as part of this in the BAA. I assume people are okay with this. This would prevent having to always have them in the budget adjustment.
Yeah.
So we can close that out. Expansion for the head model is what we talked about, these 3 positions. We'll leave this open as we did in the budget vote, because the Lions proposal might talk about some other positions.
very much. Remember, it's already in 126, and then added on to that might be, money to support the work AHS is doing, so it's a combination.
Okay. Okay, we'll go on the other side of the sheet, line 40. Workforce expansion. I don't remember what this was. Anybody know?
I'm waiting for an answer on both of those,
Okay,
so I'll leave those open for now.
okay, those will be open. Wait for the Brennan report. It seems like there's more, I thought you fixed adult education last time.
I have a whole document that is in here that I haven't gone through. I have a Zoom meeting with AD first thing in the morning, and I can, so if you can roll that open.
Seems like there's disagreement on what we did last year. the year
Yes,
before.
and I think that Senator from Chittenden, bailed on this and didn't do his duty.
That's what you think?
Very possible. And so we will also take the diploma language from the BA and put it in here. Right?
So is this open or?
Open.
If you want to.
Yeah, we'll leave it open because this money is a question about how the formula that we were corrected is being disagreed upon. But we also have the issue with those folks who can't get their diplomas from the BA, so that will be added, but there's no money for that. So it's open, for sure.
The short thing is to give me a chance to.
So base increases for 3% to UVM, state colleges.
Before we go on, sorry, about that point, I think there was some part of the BAA that was not, because I just had this conversation with them earlier, and it's raising another question for me about, if this is not the right time to talk about it, I'm going to put a pin in it,
No, go ahead.
come back to it, but the items that were in the BAA, are we going to be talking about those all separately, or are we assuming that we're going to move them into, because that money is available or floating around now,
Assuming we're going to move it all into BA, that still makes sense. However, there are some parts of the BA that when it got vetoed the second time, people started putting parts in other bills. So we just need to be cognizant of that, especially if the language changes. You don't want to pass twice with different language.
Okay.
And other parts that we might just need to rethink about because things might have changed. But the default will be, we'll put it all into the C section, mostly because that's what it was affecting 25 budget. The GFO is joyfully working on that.
Including K-pop.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so that would include all, everything. And when I say the VA, I really mean the first thing, not the second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second one, we took everything out, all the good parts.
Still a value add.
Okay, the increases to all the state colleges and UVM,
We can close those.
I think so. 43 through 45. Morgan Horse Farm, very controversial.
Dollar back in.
I still think we should add $1.
Well, you want to add $1 to the dollar the house added?
Yeah,
Let's go
or
to.
that too much?
What the hell?
It's too much. Good
Roll
fun.
the dice.
Too much.
Okay, we're closing that out, except for maybe adding $1. 47, confined animal feeding permit transition. We talked about this, people
Yep.
get their questions answered, we're okay with that?
This
Everyone?
is going from A to
Yeah,
D.
I think we're feeling good about
Ag Day and R,
that. Mhm.
you need to do that. The Dun and Bradstreet is like, fees to access their services. We can close that out. The economic analysis, is this also for the,
I think we ought to hold this open, because, and
49?
And we need to check back around with, economic development and the chair.
Was this also about the workforce program?
It's all intertwined in that whole bill that came over from.
Okay, so leave it open. I think it was gonna do an economic analysis of those programs.
Yep.
50, I wanted to find out, do we know what this is an increase the base, but of course, it doesn't tell us what the base is. I wondered what the base was. I'm gonna leave it open until I find out what the answer is. The International Business Development Office is the one in
Yeah,
Montreal.
yeah, I think all of these, all the way down to 53, economic development has,
Okay, well, we'll keep them open and wait till we hear from them on priorities.
Sorry, we're leaving 53 open, did you say?
51, 52, 53.
We're leaving them open, okay.
Yeah, I just still don't understand why they put VHEP to one time.
That was my question.
Yeah, the governor had in one time, the governor had in base, the House moved it to one time. I think so you could have the conversation every year.
Maybe.
The road grants, tourism and marketing.
those are the grants that go to local chambers and local economic development. And they use them for job retention and to get new people here. It might be a grant if somebody has come here to work to help them move their furniture. It might be a grant to help them make connections in the community. They're really small grants that our locals use to, for,
Newcomers.
yep,
I'll keep it open. We might want to just
that
discuss
was,
if it's phase the house, check it out. Also, if we do it, we should say that we're growing the grow game. Not the Land Access Opportunity Board. They got $1 million last year. The house increased it. Did they want to increase it to 2.6 million? Well, I had the note that they got $1 million last year, so if this is an increase, then the total budget was 2.63.
Maybe got one time.
Maybe that's it. Does anybody, object to closing out the Land Access Opportunity Boards? Okay, we'll close 55. Then there are things that we probably don't need to talk about. The stabilization reserve was changed by the House because it's a 5%, and so just the equation changed. Caseload reserve. We had a question about the 2753 in transportation. Not that we're in transportation, but we have a quorum, so we can talk about transportation issues in this committee. And that is the transportation fund, should they also have to do a 2753?
Complicated, so two pieces of it. One, they wouldn't have to do the 53 because that's a Medicaid special thing. So
Just the 27.
so they would have a 27th payroll every 12 years is about how often it happens, because it's bi-weekly and it's.
Okay. I thought it was like 5 or 6 years.
The Medicaid one is every about 5 to 6. The 27th payroll is every.
So maybe they just have enough cash.
They either have enough, right, like, and it's the sort of, it's a much smaller thing because it's, to the extent transportation is 80-20, it's really only the like one payroll worth of state match for transportation, so.
well, that's 80-20 on if you're in the construction area. It's not 80-20 if you're in the biggest single division in the agency is maintenance,
Right.
and that's all state money.
Right. Or all DMV and all that.
And that's where everybody that's out plowing the roads are, but, so it is a question when I don't see it as a line item in their budget.
Sure, I think that's a good question. I think that would be a great thing for Logan to look into over the summer. And come back with.
He wasn't there. So you guys are now all adjunct members of the transportation.
We can have Logan
Put that
look
on
at
your
it and then come
resume.
back with like, what would that actually cost?
Yeah.
When they have an extra payroll
Right.
that does to transportation. And if it's, they have to set aside a very small amount of money every year, is it worth it if they just figure it out when it comes, or?
Right,
All of that to say is, we're closing out 59, 60, and 61.
yep, that's good.
Perfect.
And emergency housing 64, we're keeping open.
Absolutely.
This was, we have other bills, we only have this one bill. When you created this sheet, Emily, why would that be the only bill? Is that just because we're talking
already in
about
the
changes
budget.
from the?
It's already in the budget, the 10
Oh,
million
right.
from the House, right?
That makes
They
sense.
sent the bill over with the money in the budget, and now we may find some changes to that, which I will co-opt for S-126.
Okay. The
You're stealing.
base revenue, you wouldn't have any reason to change 70, 71, or 72.
Well, 72, I'd like to leave open.
Do you think there's gonna be, you're planning to buy more cannabis, or like, what would happen that would change the revenue?
Well, I'm wondering about there, and this 5.9 is how much it's bringing in.
Right. So that,
There's a bill floating to use a proportion of the excise tax, and I'm not able to bring it up now, but they wanted to use like 25% or something. That's been a hanging question. What happens to the cannabis fund money? The governor locked up money for after school, but the rest has been falling to the bottom line. And if the House intends to use cannabis fund revenue to dedicate it to a source, I definitely want to be part of that conversation, because I've been talking for some years about, as we finish our major subsidies of Vermont State University, I've always thought that if we're going to dedicate cannabis funds, some of it should funnel into increased funding for Vermont State University. So if that's a larger discussion that the House is gonna put together, I would like to be in advance of that, talking with them.
okay.
Does that include, that doesn't include looking at the prevention dollars that are already?
No,
Okay,
those prevention dollars and after school are already in statute.
thank you.
And then there's, my memory is that there's like 75% of the revenues are still available, and they've been dropping to the bottom line.
First, after the control board takes their
Right.
operating.
So just to simplify, if the House doesn't intend to dedicate any cannabis fund revenues, then I would be fine with leaving this as it is and letting the budget go without it. But if they want to have a discussion through the budget of where that money goes, then I have a counter.
And isn't there somewhere a proposal from the cannabis control board for another position or something like that?
For an attorney.
Yeah. That, I remember talking about it, but I guess we can look at the web report. So any money that they spend reduces this
Yes.
5.9. So we could leave it open because
Yeah.
it could change if they don't get that position.
I would just say if you're in that, one of the things that we have on the one-time list is that Freedom and Unity grant that is going to fund low-income families to go tuition-free to the SU.
Yep.
That might be a good place to come up with a permanent source and to get it off from the one-time list going forward.
A very friendly amendment.
No, you guys are
Yeah.
working together on
Like
all
that.
sorts.
Well, I think he and I pretty much agree on all of this stuff.
And so that's why we don't let you sit next to each other.
I'm just trying to remember where I heard somebody making that pitch. It had to be in a House bill.
Yeah, there's been a couple
Gotta
pitches
get it
to
right once
access
in a
them.
while.
Several people want a percentage of the
Everybody
cannabis.
wants.
Yeah. And, you know, having it go to the bottom line makes it very flexible, but what I worry will happen is that we'll lock up 5% here, 10% there.
Kicking this up and down the road.
If it's gonna do any good, it should be in bigger chunks.
And I'd rather have it come to the general fund and then we decide to appropriate than have it dedicated.
Fair.
The last thing is the revenue changes that the governor proposed. The House basically kind of left that open, so at some point we'll work with our tax committee on which tax credits we want, because this reduces the amount of money we have for all the things. So those are basically all open at this point. Anything else? We can adjourn early for the day. Senator Norris, I
Yes.
want to adjourn.
I don't want to adjourn.
Okay.
Let me just take one more shot at the state's attorneys and sheriff now that I have my notes here, okay? The House put back in the $650,000 vacancy savings for the sheriffs. And I believe they put the $650 back in for the state's attorneys also. The request is to take those 9 limited positions and convert them to permanent positions at no cost. The base is already there, if I'm correct. My proposal is, and this is where it gets a little sketchy, is 1 new position, which is a combined position for a fiscal and IT support person at a cost of $95,000. And they requested 6 state paid deputies. And because of the case backload that we have and the shortage of DOC personnel, they're unable to move these individuals for us. And we want to get our caseload down. My proposal was 3 positions at $425,000, which comes up to, my proposal is $520,000, but if you take the $650 times 2, the sheriff and the state's attorneys, because they're both the same budget, the total cost looks like $1.82 million. But that's reinstating their vacancy savings for $650,000 apiece. So that's where we are with that as far as.
650, you capture the 650,000 for vacancy savings, and you wouldn't do the transport deputies?
I proposed 3 state transport deputies. It's my assumption that they're gonna simply, they created the 650 and I have trouble with vacancy savings. They created the 650 and the House reinstated it, so they wanna use that.
Yeah.
That's their budget. They wanna use that again, is what I've been told, but they wanna create 3 new positions, or 6, I say 3, for the state paid deputies. And they wanted a position for an IT and a position for a fiscal. And
Right.
I was able to say, let's combine those to get 1 position. So we're actually looking at 4 positions, 3 state paid deputies and 1 combined position for IT and fiscal.
And do you know for the 650,000 that they had, that the House put in for additional transport deputies, if that was 3, do we know how many positions that was?
Actually, they put in $850,000 was the original request for 6 state transport deputies.
Well, in the House budget as passed, it's 650.
Yeah, that's all they did was put back in their vacancy savings.
So there's vacancy savings and then
Yep.
there's the second one that.
Yeah, I don't know what they use that for. I don't know if they thought they were gonna just use 6 more positions for, and use that vacancy savings, but it's gonna cost them $420 something for 3 positions, so that's not gonna happen.
Okay.
And Tim just left the room here, so
Yeah,
they're gonna have
yeah.
to back me up on that, but those are the 4 new positions they want, and then we're looking at the $650,000 vacancy savings, if in fact, that.
We will, that is a little more clear, and then we'll maybe talk to Tim and then get it on a piece of paper that we can hand around. And then.
I support the amended Norris proposal.
I guess you got one vote. Okay, any other comments? Amy?
So I just wanted to share, in their Vantage report for the state's attorneys and sheriffs, they have $650,000 of vacancy savings.
Yeah.
And so the House added back to eliminate the vacancy savings that was reduced. So the idea is, there's no, if you include the House's, if you accept the House's proposal, the state's attorneys and sheriffs line has 0 vacancy savings. So the idea is some of that money would be used for these positions, rather than adding funding to the position request. I think that's the other piece.
So they wanted to buy back the vacancy savings, but they didn't say what they were gonna do.
Well, they're, right, they're buying it back to zero. Like, there's no,
Right.
most departments have some vacancy
Yeah.
savings. So I just wanted to add that to the conversation.
Okay.
And the other positions to convert from limited service positions to at no cost because they already have the monies for both pay and benefits.
Right, there's 4 positions or 6 positions that they're changing from limited, so that would be in the language section that we would change something like that,
Yep.
right? Or we would switch it from limited.
9 limited service positions awarded to us in fiscal year 2025. They want to convert those to the permanent positions at no cost because they already have those monies that were given to them for those positions, to include benefits.
The 9.
9. I don't know where they're gonna get all these people,
I do have one question for you, Amy, about, there was one of these where, oh yeah, for the canine trainer. They wanted to add that position from the pool. And what if the pool doesn't have a position? Then they just don't get it.
Correct.
So like, if there's a position in the pool, so we don't have to create a new position. I'll deal with that. Okay, now, yeah, Center.
So just as a matter of process, I assume that, because we haven't gone through any new base suggestions, we do that next time?
Yeah,
Amazing.
new
Not
base,
suggesting we're doing it.
new base suggestions. We are gonna have DFO, based on kind of what we've done to now, maybe we can do it after we do the base, other base additions. And get the BAA language things in here, we'll have a budget that will be way over budget. So we've kind of expanded out for our wish list, and then we'll get a budget that's gonna force us to then talk about what we're gonna cut. You'll have to change your mindset from what are we adding to what are we cutting? And it'll be a large number, $60, $80 million that we'll have to cut.
I no longer support the
Hey, you're the horn on that, boss.
Right, you should have called for a
If,
vote.
if you want to be busy while we're cutting, that'd be fine.
Center line.
So I was just thinking that we probably should look at the bills that we've sent out and the money
Yeah.
that we've taken out.
We do have a sheet on it. Did we ever pass that out? We have a sheet.
Oh, no,
Yeah, we did.
We did pass it out, yeah.
We have that,
Where it is, I don't know,
Yeah.
right there.
Somewhere. Okay,
I would suggest on the, economic development, that we get Senator Clarkson in here for 10 or 15 minutes.
yeah, and then she said they were still trying to prioritize.
Right.
And they have more bills, but we need, if you talk to any other senators about the process, we really need their input this week.
That was a big ask, and housing is a priority, and a whole bunch of that is housing, so.